We're back for episode 3 of Artists of the Roundtable.
Welcome back, especially if you made it past episode 2, because that was a long one.
If you made it through that one, congratulations.
Now we can dig into the actual building business and business techniques from here on out. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, we're going to talk about how we built our businesses,
our empire.
How we learned who we wanted to be as creatives, and how we learned how to actually make money with it.
That's right.
That's the most important part.
For sure.
So, to start off, we have 2 separate businesses, but we work together. Karen, what is the name of your
company? So my company is Significant Moments Photography. I specialize in maternity, motherhood, and underwater portraiture.
And I have Next Level Photography, and I focus on doing personal branding, headshots, and helping commercial corporations do their headshots for their employees and
helping them to just get brand recognition.
Correct.
For sure. So
let's kind of revisit, I guess, back. You just started your business.
I did. So where we left off with episode 2, I had just begun Significant Moments Photography.
Left David's Bridal.
I had left David's Bridal. While as soon as I left David's Bridal, I know in episode 2, we kind of finished off with my first sale, which was amazing. It was a $2,400 sale. But I didn't want to mislead anybody to think that I just jumped into photography without learning or figuring out how to run a business, and I just landed that sale by accident. So while I was at David's Bridal, especially towards the end, I spent so much time. Andrew and I pulled so many all-nighters where we were just learning and reading and taking classes.
Developing how we were going to come up with a strategy.
Exactly, because
you need a plan.
We do. And
we said all in or not in.
That's right, and we went all in. We did everything that we possibly could to give us the best start to actually having a business, a running, functioning business. So I think the first thing to start off with was one of the most important things that I had learned up until that point was how I needed to pull income in. And I'm talking about actual income, where we would be able to pay our bills and just have finances.
Because it's not about just taking pretty
it's
pictures.
Not. So a lot of creatives just feel like if their work is good enough, that's going to be enough for them to book clients, that's going to be enough for them to make money, but that's actually not the case. In all actuality, you have to be a numbers and a business-minded person.
Yeah.
You just have to.
That's the part of it. People don't understand sometimes. It's not just taking a picture.
Right.
Not just the techniques of everything, but you actually got to learn the marketing, the selling.
Absolutely. And again, that's really difficult for creatives, I think, because our minds just don't naturally work that way. So Andrew even said to me, I remember telling him, I was like, I know that I can photograph this and make it beautiful. And he said to me, okay, that's awesome, but how are you going to make money from that? Because, up until this point, what I had been doing was taking pictures and giving my clients all of the digital files for X amount of dollars. Now, granted, that amount did go up as my craft got better, as my knowledge of the industry got better, but it still was not enough. So I was photographing clients that I was selling maybe, $250. Back then we were putting images on a CD and, giving them 50, 70 images for that cost.
There's probably not even computers with CD things anymore.
There's not. And even the USBs are changing.
Yeah.
When Andrew said that to me, I was like, oh my God, he's absolutely right. I need to actually be able to break down how much money I need to be making an hour. Because when you're selling digital files, even if you're selling them for maybe $500, by the time you factor in the time it takes you to photograph, the time that you spent communicating with your client, the time it's spent for you to edit these images, and the fact that you are giving clients everything that you've taken, all of your artwork, you're really getting paid closer to minimum wage or coming in at a loss. So I spent quite a bit of time taking classes learning how to do IPS, which for those of you who don't know what IPS is, IPS stands for in-person sales.
Which is the goal of what?
To have your sales better, make more money.
By selling
wall art. Yeah, products,
products.
heirlooms. I mean, and when you think about it, just if you think about any time that you spent with your family, what's one of the most popular things that families like to do, around the holidays? They pull their albums out and they look through all of these images. I mean, when you think about your grandparents or any family that you may have, images, it's print. It's what we go back to
those old images.
Have those memories, yeah. So that, for some reason, tends to get lost, especially among the photography community.
People think all they want are the digitals. Oh, I need these to share.
Right.
They're in this world of sharing.
Put it on social media. But really, as photographers, our goal should be to give our clients and to offer our clients tangible products that they can pass down to their family. So after I started to embrace this thought process of in-person sales, I took the time to create a price list. There was quite a bit of math involved to make sure that I was profiting from my sales sessions versus coming out at a loss. Not only are photographers who are selling digital files probably making a lot less than they think they are, but they're going to get burned out because they're constantly working, trying to make money, when in all actuality, it's just their business structure that needs to be changed so that they can actually start to profit. So when I started to do IPS, it was a lot of trial and error.
Still is.
Yeah, it still is. Pricing, and we're going to do an entire segment just on pricing alone. So I'm not going to get too far into that, but pricing should be a living, breathing, moving thing in any company. I mean, if you just take into consideration the cost of things since COVID hit back in 2020, the cost of everything has gone up. So just like any business, why would you not apply that to your business, whatever you may be doing, whether you are a music artist, a painter, a photographer, the cost of your products should always be changing.
Which makes me laugh. I was actually in a group, I didn't show you, but the photographer, you just know I'm always stirring things up. I didn't post anything, but this particular photographer says, don't change prices because all that's going to do is your old clients, that's going to scare them away. I never change my prices. They don't go up in 5 years.
No, yeah, that's definitely probably not the best advice to go by. Because, again, what's our whole purpose? We're here to actually run a functioning, well-oiled machine as a business. If you were to compare your business to any other company out there, and you see all of these other companies, like for example, even Lowe's and Home Depot, the cost of wood, the cost of materials to just build a home,
shipped to you,
everything has gone up. So why would your cost as a service provider not go up as well? So the cost and pricing is always going to be changing. It's going to be moving.
Should be.
It should be. Yeah, it's something that you should always be looking at and considering. So I started this.
I just think they don't want to update their video.
It's very possible. It's very possible because it's a lot of work to keep things updated all the time. I mean, it's true, but what's the point in starting our own business if we're not going to actually run it like a business? So that's that's part of the job title that we decided to take on. So we have to be proactive and constantly looking at our business and seeing where we can improve or change cost or better our client experience, whatever the case may be.
Make our life easier.
Yes, absolutely.
Make it better for our clients.
So this first sale that I had after I quit David's Bridal was my first in-person sales session as well. So it's very important that I made that clear. So what they did is they came in, they ended up ordering my top package, which was $2,400. And again, I was in tears because that was the most money that I had ever made at one point in time. And it was more than I had made at David's Bridal over several months. So I was just over the moon, excited. Now, even though that was an absolutely amazing sale, I still was very new
now,
in my
this
career.
Was it was
a senior
at
session
this point, right?
Yeah, it was a senior session, which I don't photograph. And it's not that, so something that I want to make clear up front is that Andrew and I hit a bunch of controversial subjects among the photography industry, but I am going to tell you the very truthful side to it so that way when you are applying this to your business, you know all sides of it. So my point in saying that is a popular idea in photography is that you need to photograph every niche, every field, because you're opening yourself up to more fields to be able to pull in more income. But here's the thing. What I found out very quickly is that if you can single in
you can master.
Yes. If you can single in and hone in on a couple of niche fields.
Be a specialist.
Be a specialist in something. You are no longer a commodity photographer. You are now a sought out photographer because you are the best at what you do. And just to put a little perspective on it, if you think about it, if you were to break your foot, you're not going to go to your family doctor. You are going to go to somebody who is going to specialize in your feet, in a foot, how to repair the bones in your foot. So that's why, and I like to liken it to like a doctor who specializes in maybe orthopedic or something like that, because why are they called specialists? They are the best at what they do. And so for me, in the beginning, just like a lot of photographers, I photographed a lot of everything to kind of try to figure out where my talent truly lied.
And what you liked.
And what made me happy and what I connected with. So just like everybody, I photographed everything. I did weddings, I photographed pets, I did families.
Which is fine, because that's the only way you're going to learn.
That's the only way that you're going to really figure out where your true passion lies. And it's not until you find that passion within yourself that you can really start to hone in. And as we've been saying, specialize in something that's going to draw clients to you. So in the beginning, I actually wanted to be a family and newborn photographer. My reasoning behind that was
pretty popular.
It's yeah. And in my mind as a mother, I'm thinking that, newborn portraits is going to be, what's going to make a lot of money. And that was, very, in the beginning, everything is all about just figuring out how you can make the most money. When in all actuality, it should be more about figuring out your passion and then letting the money come after you have found your passion. But, you have to pull in income some way. And you have to learn what your passion is somehow. So photographing a lot of different niche fields is really important for every artist to do. So as I was starting, my mind was focused on family and newborn portraits in particular. And I, along the way, had a friend who was expecting, and she just simply asked me, she was like, "Hey, Karen, do you mind taking pictures? I'll be 8 months next week." And I said, absolutely. Another chance for me to pull my camera out to just
try something new.
Yeah, photograph. I always encourage any artist to just photograph, just do as much as you can in the field that you're interested in, because that's the best way that you're going to learn. So of course I was like, absolutely, I'll photograph you guys. And I did. When that session was over, Andrew told me, he was like, "Honey, you really have a unique eye with maternity portraiture. I think you should consider this being one of your niche fields." And it literally caused an argument between us, because I was like, "Honey, nobody is going to want to spend money on their maternity portraiture. Everybody's going to want pictures of their baby. Nobody's going to care about having portraits of themselves." And I was just so hell-bent on making sure that he knew that I was right about this and he was wrong.
Because I didn't know anything about photography.
Because he didn't know anything about photography, and because I had taken classes, I just was a know-it-all. And I was humbled so quickly. And I ended up going back to him a couple days later. I'm so passionate about everything that, I can get super heated, and it takes me a couple days to calm down. Once I did, I went to him and I said, "You know what? You may be right. I'm going to run a model call. I'm going to do 4 models, maternity only. I'm going to pour my heart and soul into this, and then I'll see where it goes." After I did those 4 model calls, and I really let my mind and my heart decide how I wanted to portray these women during such an important time in their life.
We went all out here. We found locations that no one had photographed before.
We sure did. We researched everything that we possibly could. Wardrobes, locations. We even found this amazing temple right in Georgia that I don't even know how we came across it. But we took one of the models there. She was of Asian descent, and it was just so absolutely beautiful.
Looked like we were in China somewhere.
It did. Like, yeah, it absolutely did.
You would have no idea it was in
It was
Georgia.
Off of a main highway, and it looked
in someone's
like
backyard. Literally, they had their dogs come out, and then they got this giant temple in their backyard.
It was so stunning. It was such a work of art. The architecture was absolutely beautiful. But the point in telling you that is that we spent so much time and energy to just really give maternity portraiture a shot. Because I had already shut it down in my mind. So when I made the decision, you know what, let me just try it and see, because I'm trying everything else. Let me go ahead and give this a real shot and see how it goes. When I did that, my heart and mind was set, because I was able to view my subject in a way that nobody else was photographing maternity portraits at that time. And Andrew just told me, he said, honey, you really have a knack for this, and I think that this is where we should focus. And I couldn't disagree with him, because I was so happy doing what was in my mind for these expecting women that it just was bleeding out of me, this creativity was. So at this point in time, I had already started an Instagram page. I had a Facebook page. My website was there, but it wasn't necessarily SEO friendly at this point in time. But I had all of the basic fundamentals to kind of start to market once I had marketing material. So after I did these model calls, and I really felt like I sort of found my calling at that point in time, I knew it was going to be a struggle, because up until this point, everyone was photographing maternity clientele the same. It was all in a field with a
white jeans or white shirt and jeans and you got the ultrasound picture or baby boots.
Yeah, they had little baby boots by the belly.
Maybe
or
some
the
blocks
ultrasound.
Spelling the baby's name.
Yeah, which I did all of that. I did all of those things too. So that's not to discredit anybody who does that, because I definitely did it. But I wanted to add a more couture, high-end feel.
It felt more like they're just like little reveal side pictures more than anything. People weren't really doing it seriously.
They weren't. Nobody was offering something more for these clients. So
that wasn't something you would hang on a wall.
No, and I don't know if anybody remembers, because I was even young, but I remember Demi Moore. She was on the cover, I believe, of Time magazine, and she was like one of the first women to pose nude for her maternity portraits, and it just caused such a splash. So this came flooding back to me as I'm photographing these women, and I'm like, nobody photographs maternity portraiture in like a couture, high-end way. And I said, I can't believe it, because becoming a mother was something that just absolutely changed my life. And it's also one of the most vulnerable times I feel for a woman. You know, you may not necessarily feel your best. Your body's changing. You're trying to embrace these changes. So to find a photographer out there to photograph you, making you feel beautiful and sexy, I felt like there was this stigma that as soon as you became a mom, everything kind of had to be, simple and frumpy and kind of lifestyle. And I wanted to change that. So after I ran these model calls, I had plenty of material to start marketing myself. And, when funds are really tight in the beginning of building your business, you don't necessarily have all of the funds at your disposal to pour into SEO. So what did I do? I used the free forms of marketing that were available to me. So I used Instagram, I used Facebook. And I know creatives, this is a controversial subject for creatives, because keeping up with social media is like another job. But again,
it's a job itself.
Yeah, it is. But again, that's why we became business owners. That's part of our job title, is to be able to market for ourselves. So it's something that we have to do, whether we like it or not. And I know that a lot of people will probably say, well, I built my business without using those things. That's amazing. However, if you are not in this day and age
it's a different time.
It's a completely different time. So as much as you may not
relevant, it's
exactly.
You gotta
as much as you may not want to hear it, social media is a huge, huge part of business, and it's free. Why would you not use something that's free to market yourself? It just doesn't make sense.
This is about 8 years ago, so this is when Instagram, this stuff was
fairly new.
It was new, so it was.
It blew up. It blew up
because no one was seeing anything like this.
Right. So I went through a couple of months where I had my first $2,400 sale, and then I didn't book any more clients that were in my niche field that I wanted to go to until I booked these 4 model calls, and I was able to really create what was in my head.
Because we tried the seniors, but
the seniors was just an entirely different marketing game, and I found that it wasn't that I disliked photographing seniors.
It wasn't that you photographed them bad, you photographed them awesome.
Right. It was just my personal passion wasn't there. And I realized it was just because I personally have a connection with motherhood and pregnancy, and it's not that I can't appreciate seniors. Like I said, our daughter is about to be 15, and everybody asks me, are you going to take her senior portraits? I absolutely am not. We already found the photographer, and he's booked. So I will entrust that to someone else because my passion doesn't lie there. And again, I know that's pretty controversial because people say, well, if you photograph one thing well, you should be able to photograph everything well. And it's not that I can't photograph a wedding or that I can't photograph seniors or dogs, because we can. It's just that's not where my passion lies. And if I'm going to be putting in all of this effort and time and energy, I want it to be something that makes me happy. And that's what I did. So once I started posting these images, and mind you, I had to do quite a bit of research on how Instagram worked, understanding hashtags, because, at the beginning when Instagram was still fairly new, people were using hashtags not knowing that they were essentially keywords. So I remember teaching my first class on marketing, and that's been 4.5 years ago, and people were like, wait a minute, what is a hashtag? So even then, after Instagram had been around for a while, hashtags was still kind of a very unknown
tagging people
territory. Yeah. So I had to do a lot of research and just educating myself on how Instagram actually worked. It wasn't enough to just post an image and throw in random hashtags like hashtag sunny day.
Hashtag I like smile.
Right. Which is
made no sense.
Yeah, which is what a lot of people did back then, because they just didn't quite understand that hashtags is essentially keywords like you would on Google. Yeah, like
SEO.
when people type in, best maternity photographer. That's the same thing that a hashtag is. So understanding that, once I started to use that marketing material and use Instagram in a way that was able to bring me clientele. So the first 1.5 to 2 years, 80% of my business came from Instagram. I want to say that again because I know, like I said, a lot of people just don't see the relevance in social media, but I'm going to say it again. 80% of my clientele came from Instagram the first 1.5, close to 2 years of my business.
Basically, it built
my empire. It was the beginning,
the
building blocks of my empire. Without that, and it could have been possibly because I wasn't investing in SEO, which truly, if I had any regrets of anything or any advice to upcoming business owners or people who maybe feel like they're in a lull in their business, it would be to 100% invest in SEO, which is search engine optimization for your website. That would be my biggest regret that I didn't do that sooner. But again,
we didn't know at the point.
We didn't know the relevance of that, and we also didn't have a lot of funds. So we were trying to build what we could the cheapest way that we could. But again, hindsight's 2020. You're going to hear me say that so much. Knowing what I know now, I would have put that on a freaking credit card so fast, knowing that SEO is so important and it pulls in so many amazing clients. So at the time, I did the best that I could with the knowledge that I had. And honestly, it worked so amazingly for me. So once I started doing that, I finally started booking clients, and it was almost like a light switch went off. And I remember because Andrew
Some of those clients are still clients today.
Yep, they've stuck with me for years. So I remember during that period from having that one $2,400 sale until I started booking, maternity clientele, Andrew was feeling a little bit of pressure because even though my paycheck that I was getting at David's Bridal wasn't, a large amount, it didn't really help that much. It was still extra income. So without that, Andrew was feeling a little bit of stress from, being the only person pulling in any sort of finances for our family. And I could see the stress on his face. And I remember telling him, we had a heart-to-heart conversation. And I said, babe, I do not want to give up on this. But if I do not book somebody by February, I'll go back and get a job while we continue to build this. And he said, okay, that's fine. He just, we needed to have a plan. Everybody needs to have a plan in place in case, maybe they go through a quiet spell or whatever the case may be. And remember, we didn't have any savings at this point in time because we weren't pulling in enough money. Well, lo and behold, the very next day, I booked somebody. And then I continued to book people for the rest of my career up until today. So just the importance of being able to find a field that you are passionate about, that the artwork just flows naturally for you. It's not complicated. It's not difficult. You don't get stuck worrying about posing or worrying about what to do with your client next. It just flows.
The more you do it, the better you become at it, the more
and it wasn't
recognize
long
you for it.
Absolutely. And it wasn't long that because I was photographing maternity portraiture in such a unique way that my business started gaining traction, not just with clients, but with the photography industry as a whole, because nobody was doing what I was doing at the time. And it just hand over fist. So like my first year, I want to say I made like $7,000. My second year, it like quadrupled. My income, and normally, typically with businesses, you see like large growth within the first or second year, and then after that, it kind of goes down to maybe like a 10% growth or 5% growth, maybe 15, depending, on what you're doing. My finances every year, my profit kept doubling, sometimes tripling every single year. And then it got to a point where it was not just doubling and tripling, it was like quadrupling itself. We were hitting new tax brackets every single tax period. And it was amazing. But with that income, I decided to take that and pour it back into the business, continue to work on building my website, work on figuring out new ways of marketing, Facebook ads, Instagram ads. We started investing in SEO. We were building my website, making it more search engine optimizable, I guess I should say. We just started to make sure that our funds were well spent. So I think a lot of business owners, when they start making more money, they kind of get comfortable with the income that they have, and they're not thinking long-term goals, 5 years, 10 years from now. Where do you want your business to be? So
you want to do the same thing forever, shoot 100 people to you're 7 years old?
Exactly, and that was definitely not a goal of ours. So we made sure that money was invested right back into the business. But really and truthfully, the growth that my company saw was because I specialized in a field. I learned as much as I possibly could about expecting mothers. And even though I'm a mom myself, that didn't automatically mean that I knew everything about pregnancy or how a pregnant woman was feeling. I learned to read their body language. I learned how they needed to eat and drink and sleep the week before their session so that their energy levels were good. I learned the best timing for them to come and take their pictures. If it was their first pregnancy, if it was their third pregnancy, if they were carrying twins, I just was like a sponge, and I took everything I possibly could in, and I let it marinate and continued to better my business. The next area that I would like to say with building our empire was our client experience. So one thing I can tell you is that, people don't always understand the work that goes into photography or how much it actually
Again, it's
costs.
more than just going to taking a picture and being done.
Absolutely. and truthfully, not only was the maternity field as a whole lacking that couture high-end vibe, but it was also lacking in client experience. There was no photographers out there that was having,
even these posing itself was just
very minimal. Like there was no variety in anything. So the other area that really set me apart from other photographers and still sets me apart is the experience that I provide my clients. Now, granted, when you're kind of coming from an area where you don't really understand money and, $2,000 is just a whole lot of money, you don't quite fully appreciate or understand what an amazing experience is until you actually get to witness that yourself as a consumer.
It's funny because that is a quote. What was it? Steve Harvey. He said, just take a first class plane trip and just see the difference.
Yes. And that I can tell you.
And it'll change your whole mindset on
everything.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And that alone right there, just being able to go as a consumer into a higher end store and see how I was treated as a consumer helped me so much in understanding how I wanted my clients to be treated. So that not only were they getting amazing artwork, but they were also having an amazing experience.
Okay, it goes along with it.
Right, it does. They go hand in hand. So again, going back to like what I call the shoot and burner mentality of where you just take pictures and send them on their way with digital files. What kind of a relationship is that? And can you really expect, what is it about you and your business that's setting you apart from the 8 million other people in the same field as you?
That could do the same thing.
Exactly. I mean, at that point in time, you are now not only comparing yourself to everyone around you, which is super toxic for your mentality, but it's not helping you progress in your business. You're now having to kind of price check with everybody. You're having to compete with prices.
Put yourself back in that commodity category.
You're never going to get out of that same wheel of getting the same clients who only want to pay a certain amount and for good reason. I mean, what are you offering them that's different from everybody else? Which is where the experience comes into play. So not only did I realize that my portraiture needed to stand out significantly, but my experience and the way that I treated my clients needed to stand out significantly as well. So the first year and a half of my business, once I started booking clients, I was always revisiting what I could do to better my experience for my clients. And I always use, when I'm teaching about this part of my business, I always say, we're in such a unique time in human history where women are embracing their bodies during pregnancy. If you look back to the 70s and 80s, women were wearing tents to kind of hide their baby bump. And now we have women who are in, bikinis on the beach, and they have these beautiful crop tops, and they're just living their life, embracing this amazing journey to
maternity
motherhood.
Clothing by itself now is just $1 billion industry.
Absolutely. And so why would we ever think that
women want to feel beautiful when
they
they're
do.
pregnant.
They really do. And
they want to be proud and show it off.
They sure do. And that was the next thing I was going to say, is that we're also in a time where everything is YOLO. You only live once, right? So have the best experience, have the best, you don't want to miss out on anything. Mm-hmm. So for us as creatives, it's a beautiful time because we get to be a part of that. We get to help our clients feel absolutely amazing and give them artwork and an experience that they can't just get anywhere. Yep. That was really what set my business apart from every other photographer in my area. And, a lot of people are like, well, Karen, aren't you worried about teaching people? Aren't you worried that they're going to just take your business? And my answer to that is no, I'm not worried about it, because even if you were to line 50 photographers up in a row, every single one of us has a different eye, a different vision. We're going to photograph the same subject in a different way. So there is no competition for me. And that's not to sound cocky, because I want everybody to look at it that way. I want you all to realize that you have something special to offer your potential clients. You just have to find what that is and make it happen, make it come to life. So in doing so, that was what really led to my empire just exploding and building. And to all of the people who told me that it couldn't be done, I am happy and proud to say that we have done it and are continuing to do it. So for the longest time, everyone just kind of mocked me at the fact that I was photographing, and specifically photographing maternity clientele, because again, most people were thinking family and newborn is where the money is, and that's where you should focus.
And it's always funny you say, even with weddings, you could get married again with wedding pictures.
Oh, absolutely.
But
and
maternity, this is the only time you will ever be pregnant with this one child. You may be pregnant again, but it's not going to be with this child.
Exactly. So that was another thing that I would always tell my potential clients, is that the documentation of this pregnancy
is a once in a lifetime.
Is a once in a lifetime moment. So when we hit the 6-figure sale mark, we had to go out and celebrate, because we proved so many people wrong that told us it just could not be done. And today, we are a profiting 6-figure business just in the maternity clientele alone. So if you are out there as a creative, just wondering if you're ever going to make it, or if this is really a doable career for you, it is. It is. You do have to be a smart business person, and you do have to be aware of the experience that you're giving your clients. But don't ever let anybody tell you that it cannot be done, because it can. And we are living, walking proof of that, both of us.
Think about your other field too.
I was just about to say, so then the next field that I started to really focus on was underwater. Just quick history on that. I love the water. I have always been a water baby. I am obsessed with the ocean. I am trying to convince Andrew to let me go swim with sharks.
No, not just sharks. We're not talking just like your regular old
like nurse sharks.
Yeah, we're not.
No, I want to get in with like
she wants to
great
get
whites.
with Jaws.
They look so happy. They're always smiling at you.
Yeah, that's what that is.
But anyways, I've always been obsessed with the water, but as a kid, I was supposed to have tubes put in my ears because I would constantly get ear infections. And because of, our personal situation, it just never happened. We were always moving around, we could never get it done.
So
my doctor, I got an ear infection every time I got in the water. So my doctor literally said, even when you're showering, you're going to have to put earplugs in. And so I just got in the habit of not putting my head underwater ever. And if I was in the shower, I had earplugs in. So one day I booked a maternity client, and she says, have you ever thought of doing, something underwater? And I said, I have thought about doing something underwater. I've just been a little nervous to do it. I said, but you know what? It's been a long time since I've had an ear infection. Let's try it. And that session was the most difficult session I have ever done in my life.
What do we do? How did you start it?
I was immediately hooked, though, because I am obsessed with the challenge of underwater. And when it challenged me, I was like, oh yes, this is for me.
To be continued in part 2.